Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Joining me on this goddamn double feature is Michael Kester. My name is
Lord
Eric Ingram.
Humongous.
And yeah, you want to be humongous for this show?
You can be Lord Humongous.
Oh, that's weird. And I'm not going to call myself Lord Humongous. It just
But you're
sounds
fucking
like
Lord
I'm
Humongous, man.
inviting. All right, so the movies we're doing today. What are the movies?
Today we're doing Bellflower and Crash.
There we are. Bellflower and Crash. Those were
Yeah.
the movies, yes. The David Cronenberg Crash.
And the Evan Gladell Bellflower.
There you have it. We're going to... Chapters. Wait, let's do this correctly this
Okay.
time. Use chapters to skip the rest of this boring segment. There, you like that? I'm on top of this. This is going to be a good show. I can tell already. You can use the chapters. They're embedded in the show. The reason you might want to use the chapters if you haven't skipped yet, this is going to be like a secret segment that no one hears because everyone went, ooh,
Yeah.
chapters, skip.
Right.
You can skip over the spoilers using
Yeah.
the chapters.
And Bellflower, I know we always kind of do this thing where we talk about the level of spoilerage that you can actually do.
Yeah, that's my
and
fault.
I think that's
Sorry about
stupid.
that.
No,
Yeah, it
I don't
is-
think you're stupid.
No,
I
I'm
think,
stupid as well, but coincidentally, not
But
really.
what I do want to say is Bellflower has one of my favorite spoilers
Oh, good. Okay.
of any film ever. And so we're definitely going to talk about that.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Bellflower first. And just to say fuck you to all those people who skipped the spoiler warning using the chapters
I'm going to
feature.
spoil it right away.
Yeah, what's the spoiler from Bellflower? Tell me right now.
My favorite spoiler from Bellflower is when he fucking wakes up after that massive slaughter fest, and he kind of just goes, okay, so don't burn the box.
There you have it. All right, so where should we actually start with Bellflower?
I think with Bellflower, you got to start before they make the film.
Oscilloscope? Is
I
that
think
what
you
you want
start
to talk
with
about?
Oscilloscope
Of course
Productions.
You do. Of course you do. So tell me about this.
So Oscilloscope Productions, I mean, you've seen the logo if you've
Yeah.
ever watched a film.
If you've watched this film,
Sure.
maybe.
And it's an independent film production studio. They do a lot of stuff at Cannes and Sundance. That's the other one. Those are the
Sure.
two that people give a shit about, right?
Yes. Man, this is going to be like the indie circuit show.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah.
be talking about that a lot.
And it was run by Adam. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yacht or Yacht.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
From MCA.
Yeah.
I've always called him MCA,
That's
and then
fine.
he died. And
Yeah.
then when you say MCA, you have to call him Adam Yacht.
Sure.
So MCA.
So where else will people know him
The
from?
Beastie Boys from
All right.
Futurama is where people know him from.
Sure.
But he
Sure.
was he was MCA in the Beastie Boys, and he had this side project with all of his massive amounts of well-deserved cash from being an innovative musician and musical artist.
No sarcasm there, by
Yeah,
the way,
none.
right? Okay, good. Totally on board with you.
And
I just want to make sure we are clear for the audience.
Absolutely one of the
Hooray,
most
capitalism.
groundbreaking. Yeah,
Did a good job, groundbreaking, got lots of money.
sure.
And then used it on art.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So Oscilloscope
have done
Films
better.
it's this production company that funds independent films that, are interesting or innovative.
Sure.
And
As an alternative to just buying a giant gold pyramid, perhaps?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so film company.
Right. And Bellflower was one of the films that I think it was one of the last films Oscilloscope ever put out.
Sure.
It came out in 2011, and it's, I mean, man, one of my favorite films, I think, in the entire world.
Awesome.
And you start there. So you start with this independent film company giving this first off director a chance. This
Sure.
writer, producer, director, star, one of our favorite types of people.
Yeah.
And it's Evan Gladell who plays Woodrow in Bellflower. And on top of making the film, he goes ahead and builds a camera,
Sure.
builds a fucking camera for
Sure.
the film, and he put the car together. They actually made
Yeah.
that car themselves.
Yeah.
You can actually buy one. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I did not
if
know
you
that.
give them $500,000, they will build you a Mother Medusa car.
Really?
And
For
they
a
will
mere
get
$500,000.
yeah, and they will get all the permits, and they will make
Wow.
it street valid. It will be able to shoot fire, and they will deliver it to you. And the $500,000, bonus for them is so that they can produce more films.
as a point of comparison, you can buy Tony Stark's car for $250,000.
Yeah, it's an obscene amount of
maybe
money.
$120,000 depending on your options.
It's an absolutely obscene amount of money, but it's the whole idea is
sure.
to produce their film.
Yeah,
as much as get a sweet ass motherfucking car.
Yeah, sure.
Designed by a filmmaker. I mean, this guy does everything.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about this camera first of all. It's this kind of camera that I guess he hodgepodge put together.
Yeah.
That is his, it's his baby. It's what he makes his movies with.
Mm-hmm.
So in being a guy who's so invested in kind of gadgets and do-it-yourself and building, he created this camera. And, as a person myself who likes cameras, I like to think a director has one camera. It's their baby. They carry it everywhere.
Sure.
It's their partner in filmmaking.
Right. Well, it's fucking Keith Richards' guitar.
Yeah. I think of it, like the little musical background I have where you have your guitar, you're married to it. It writes all your songs with you. You take it places and make your art. But that's not true. Cameras are disposable. You rent them. They cost a lot of money.
Right.
Most of the time, you don't even operate them. You have a fucking camera operator.
You play guitar and look through them.
But this is a guy who built he's a fucking Jedi building his lightsaber. That's
absolutely.
what this is. So you actually, and this is a rare moment for a show, I think you might know more about this crazy camera thing than I do.
Yeah, I got really excited when I first saw Bellflower.
Sure.
And I did a whole bunch of looking into. I mean, the first thing that you and I ever do when we see a film
read everything possible about it.
I mean, I believe the most exemplary moment was Ty West. We saw House of the Devil and immediately went, must see everything.
Sure, yeah.
Apparently, except him at Music Box.
Yeah, sorry
Way
about
to
that,
go,
Ty.
us. But I watched Bellflower and I went online and I read every fucking thing there was to know about Evan Glidell and the whole rig that he used to make the film.
Awesome.
And the camera is composed of old Russian camera lenses.
Cool.
And from way
so
back.
The dirty, grungy.
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
And then a bellows from an old photography camera. Smile, poof.
Yeah.
Put your head under the hood.
Yeah, definitely.
One of those bellows. And the whole, it's insanely DIY and it's very manual.
Cool.
But it's those two on top of just, a digital camera, which I'm sure you know more about than me.
It's the SI2K, isn't it?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know how much of that 2K is actually under that body.
The
there.
operating parts.
Okay. Well, the SI2K is, if you so we talk about red cams, and I'm looking down at the camera that's in our what is this thing? Canon, the T3i. The DSLR filmmaking stuff, where the red cam is kind of the Mac of the camera world.
Yeah.
The SI2K would be all of that SI stuff. It's kind of the Linux end of that.
Oh.
It's the thing you could pull apart and build. First of all, the camera has Wi-Fi, so there's that.
Huh.
Yeah, it'll record in RAW. I think it does H.264 stuff. But 2K is a term that basically means it's like how the Red shoots 4K.
Uh-huh.
You're familiar with 1080p?
Yeah.
So, high definition, 720p, 1080p video. The T3i we have here will shoot 1080p. The Red camera will shoot 4K, which is, 4,000 by whatever resolution. It's huge. So it's a little more future-proof. When people eventually have 4K televisions that can, hold their like Retina televisions or whatever, then we'll be able to get really great definition. So it's making sure we film a movie now. We don't even really have displays where we could see how awesome this is, except maybe on, the greatest possible computer displays.
Yeah.
But in the future, when stuff is better, as it will always be in the future, then this will still look good. Sure. So this is a 2K camera. So it's about twice the definition or whatever of 1080p. And it has Wi-Fi. It's got a Core 2 Duo in it. It has, a MacBook processor or whatever in it. And they're known for they're about the same price. So it's not necessarily cheaper, but they're super low noise, and they're people into that kind of do-it-yourself hodgepodge your Russian lens on there. You know, I could totally see where he's using one of these things.
Sure. So that's the makeup of the film before we actually get into fucking Bellflower.
Sure.
But I think that's a huge part of what makes Bellflower such an interesting and unique film.
Definitely.
Is that it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before. And that's not always to say that that's better or worse. We always talk about on the show how you can do something that everyone has done, and by simply knowing people have done it, you can tweak it and show that it can be done that way, but well.
Right. When people think about, on their cell phones, they use Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
They apply filters to their photos. The things that Instagram is calling back to, that's the kind of equipment that he's actually built here.
Exactly.
He has a movie, and we'll have a kind of a connection. I want to talk about mumblecore a little bit. We've never discussed that on the show. But in talking about that cultural thing that has happened with photography, where people have a huge interest in making photos look like the old-timey stuff, making these lo-fi movies and then using these dirty Russian lenses and the speed up.
I love that because they're Russian, they're dirty.
Yeah, that's
not that Russian people
I think
are
about
dirty.
the old Russian sci-fi.
Sure, you think
stuff,
about old Russian sci-fi. You think about absolutely.
Well, I think about
Metropolis.
Well, you want to think about old Russian sci-fi. I think about Christmas from Mars again.
Yeah.
And then I think, well, dirty.
The
do it
original
yourself.
Solaris. I mean, have you seen that shit?
No, I haven't.
Gritty.
Is it dirty? Yeah, gritty stuff. So the marriage that I think we're seeing here, and I don't have a lot of background because I'm not a big fan of this mumblecore thing, but part of it is the Mad Max stuff, and part of it's the mumblecore stuff. That's the narrative I'm going to create for a conversation.
Yeah.
And it could just be completely made up.
Great.
I don't know. But there was this thing that happened. You and I know the Mad Max stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that a ton. But I want to talk a little bit about the mumblecore thing, probably because I'm being so dismissive of it. I imagine it'll never show up again. Double feature.
Is mumblecore Guy Ritchie?
Mumblecore.
Because I'm just imagining.
That's what you want it to be.
That's what
right?
I'm thinking. I'm thinking mumblecore must be those Guy Ritchie movies.
Mumblecore is this. It's a really annoying term, and everyone hates it, and it went away pretty quick. It was these movies that were made for about 3 years, honestly, that made a huge round in the indie circuit, and we're getting a lot of press at film festivals. Mumblecore describes something that's existed for a long time. It's something that Linklater was really big for doing. It's something that when it was kind of done in primer, it was done so well, people didn't consider it mumblecore.
Wow, this is like a big reveal for me at this point.
It's independent filmmaking is what I'm getting at.
Are you kidding?
No, I mean, yes and no. It's more specific than that.
Okay.
But let's reel it in a little bit. I'll give you a more specific idea.
Is it when people just walk around and chat and then that's a movie?
I think you've got it,
really?
Actually. Yeah, well, it's these movies that we'll go over some details, right? Impossibly small budget. I guess that's one
Gus
thing.
Van Sant directing.
It's even small. It's people you've never heard of. Let's start there.
Okay.
People you've never heard of making impossibly small budget films using non-traditional actors. It's a lot of backyard films. So it's stuff they're super talky by nature.
Sure.
Probably because that lends itself to the budget.
So now I'm thinking something like Kids.
It's a little
like
closer
maybe
to that.
Girlfriend
Exactly.
Experience.
Sure.
Again, without the massive names. And I
Right.
say massive very loosely.
Sure.
The massive names of Sasha Grey and Chloe Sevigny.
Yeah, I mean, that Soderbergh direction, that's a good way to kind of think about that. Kids, I think, is a great example of, had the whole thing that happened surrounding Kids happened 4 years ago, then people might have gone, oh, this is a piece of mumblecore filmmaking. The Linklater stuff, the early kind of stuff that made the festival circuit.
Dazed and Confused.
When he was, I mean, I'm even thinking like the Slacker kind of stuff.
Yeah, right on.
But it's
Those
just
the actual ones.
It's lo-fi, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that it really often imitates life. And that's what I mean when I say a backyard film. They're almost kind of hangout films.
Sure.
They're often really improvised, not all the time, but very often. And the idea is just, in the same way as a lot of the bigger filmmakers you mentioned, like Soderbergh, to give natural performances, to have everything look really authentic and just, this is what life looks like.
Well, and I think that's something Bellflower does in spades, is it kind of has this perpetuating humanity to all of the characters, for better or for worse. I mean, it does this thing where you have Woodrow, and he seems like a cute guy, but he's also kind of fucking annoying.
Sure. Right.
He's a little bit too much of a pussy sometimes.
You got it.
But, you get him. More than like him or identify with him, you know him.
Yeah.
By the end of the film...
these are also people that, are our age.
Sure.
We don't, you and I don't know why. I don't want to say it's because we're more awesome than everyone, but I think we came from strange backgrounds.
Yeah.
So we don't look a lot like other people our age.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't fall into that social scene. And I don't want
It was
to.
the social scene of normal looking people.
Well, that's it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm kind of trying to say I'm so unique and cool and awesome, but it's really because I have no friends. Maybe that's
yeah,
what
that's
I'm
what
getting
I
at.
was. That was actually the joke I was gonna make.
Like,
when
I don't
you-
know where your background comes from, but I was nuts, and
No
that's why
friends.
I don't. Yeah. So
yeah, my background comes from being a fat nerdy kid.
cool.
I grew up the fat nerdy
Awesome.
unpopular kid for 14 years.
Well, and you and I don't drink. I think
Yeah.
that's maybe the other thing. But this kind of culture is a lot of what mumblecore is. It's these kids who are in their 20s. You know, this happenstance genre is kind of littered with people that it represents how people feel in their lives. They have what are you doing with your life? That's
Yeah.
basically
Sure.
the general feeling of you're 20, maybe you have no job, you're living in a really low rent apartment. You get together with all your friends all the
Yeah.
time with your
Go to a bar and eat crickets.
red plastic cup, or you do the exhibitionist,
Yeah.
But the thing that separates this movie and pushes it away from the other mumblecore stuff is that it has this strong Mad Max element to
Yeah.
it. It doesn't just wander around and go, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I need comfort in how aimless things are.
Well, I think
it builds fucking cars.
Well,
you
but
know?
see, that's the thing is, I think it does do that. I think
It does that too.
It goes.
Yeah, I mean-
what are we doing? Like,
Sure, it has that.
constantly begs the question: what are these people doing with their lives? Who
Sure.
are they? What's the point here? And that's where the Mad Max element comes in.
Right.
Is the answer is they are preparatory anarchists.
Sure.
They are getting ready for the end of the world. They're
Yeah.
preparing for Armageddon, and then that does some sort of backwards extrapolation into their own life where they end it.
Yeah.
You know what I
right,
mean?
Right.
The film opens with this kind of discussion about Lord Humongous and Mother Medusa, and you know what's gonna fucking happen? We're gonna roll up with our
Sure.
flamethrowers.
Sure.
And it's this childlike being the most badass motherfucker.
Sure.
Um
Well, and they even talk. I mean, they say directly in the movie, we want to roll up at a bar where people will look at us and look
we'll
at our
just
car,
stand against our
and
car and
go,
smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean that's
And let them
definitely
look at
something I
us.
can go. I'm not above that. I
Right.
would have that conversation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if we made this car? Hey, let's go drive it somewhere where
Yeah.
people will ask us about the
Right.
car and want to be our friends.
Right. And then what ends up happening is that kind of it starts in the film when the world comes to a close, this is what we will be doing.
Sure.
And then bad things start happening to the characters and they start feeling, like their world is ending.
Sure.
And that's when you start getting into the dangerous area of planning for the Armageddon.
The self-fulfilling Armageddon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you
yeah.
plan for the Armageddon, it's going to be one of the heaviest things I've ever said on Double Feature.
Great.
Eric.
I'm excited you're saying it.
Armageddon is totally subjective.
Sure.
And it's one of the only times I've ever seen that point brought up in film. I didn't realize it
Right.
until I was watching Bellflower, and you see Woodrow, who was this cute guy, sweater vest.
Yeah.
Fucking sweater vest.
Sure.
And
I think the word you want is adorable.
yeah. And he trades his car for a motorcycle. He gets mixed up with this girl who's a little bit too nuts for him.
Hot.
She's
Nuts.
Yeah,
Nuts is the
both.
one you wanted. Okay.
Both.
Sorry.
and she fucks him over because that's who she is, you know?
Sure.
And that's again an illustration of, I guess, what is called mumblecore.
Sure.
Where
Damn it! I thought we'd said that for the last time. Oh well.
yeah, where she's this person, like you get her.
Sure.
You've met her. By
Sure.
the end of the film, you've met Millie.
Yes.
And you hate her
Right.
for what she's done.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't blame her because she's a person. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
And that is all it takes for Woodrow to go, this is the end of the world.
Yeah.
For me, he gets hit by a car. He has no job.
Right.
He's got all this bad stuff happening to him.
Sure.
And so he goes, okay, it's fucking flamethrower time.
Yeah,
It
right.
is
It's the
time
apocalypse.
for Lord Humongous.
Sure.
We
Well, and that's
bring
the thing
the
is,
apocalypse this time.
I think, the end of the world, you have that fantasy idea of, when that happens, which won't fucking happen.
Right.
But if you're a survivalist or you're into zombie movies or whatever, you have these stupid fantasies about, what'll it be like and how will I protect myself from the zombies?
Right. And they star Mel Gibson.
Yeah. These guys obviously take that too far.
Yeah.
But the idea you have in your head is, when there's a mushroom cloud, then
Yeah.
I'll know, it's desert wasteland and there's a robot with a George Washington wig and Felicia Day's hanging out. And so when that's happening. But they have their own mini mushroom cloud.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's the one at the end too or whatever.
Sure.
But when that flamethrower goes off,
Yep.
they take a second to pause and go, I mean, it's a moment to go, wow, how boss is this thing we create? I didn't realize how destructive and terrifying it is. But also, there's a small little mushroom cloud.
Yep.
There's the moment where you kind of go, oh, the end times look like this. Not even realizing,
Sure.
wait, I just made that. That's
Right.
only here because I put it here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why when you get that final spiraling moment where he's staring at Millie's shit.
Sure.
I
sure.
mean, what's the vignette chapter is called No One Gets Out of Here Alive, or
yeah,
No One
the
Gets Out
title
Alive.
card. Right.
I mean, by the end of that, when he's walking down the street and the other girl blows her fucking brains out.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that great?
That's a moment where you see him, his hands are covered in blood, fire all around him. The shots are dark and heavy contrast.
Yep.
And blood is flying behind. I mean, you don't know what he did to Millie, but apparently his cock was actually that thing from Seven.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I thought about that same fucking scene.
And
from Seven.
and by then you realize, okay, yeah, he's bringing the Armageddon.
Yep.
This motherfucker is gonna bring the Armageddon.
Well, and it's the film also proving it isn't just the characters in the movie.
Right.
It's that's the thing that I think makes it unlike other pieces of, I don't
That
even want
thing.
to call it a genre. It's like a subgenre of a
Sure.
subgenre. But the characters are wearing ironic shirts and stupid sunglasses.
Right.
The movie is not that. The movie is the Mad Max stuff.
Uh-huh.
And when it gets to the end, that's where it really shows, it's showing off. It's that it almost looks like the bleach bypass thing. I think we talked about it, probably not on Seven, but maybe on Fight Club.
Uh-huh.
Just a really heavy version of that, and bloody as fuck all. And I mean, the content of the movie up to this point has been what's celebrating that really Armageddon, end of the world stuff.
Uh-huh.
They made a flamethrower, and they, this stuff the filmmakers actually created, the whiskey dispenser and that kind of stuff. That great matte black car. That's also how you know it's the end of the world, I guess,
Sure.
is you have a matte black car.
Matt Black, yeah.
Yeah, it's that or Fast and the Furious, I think, is one of the two things. I love that control panel they have too, though.
Right.
It's just great. The fucking LED buttons.
Yeah.
Oh, God, the whole thing is great. But by getting all these things out of order, you have some of the most celebratory moments at the end.
Yeah.
But you also have the, oh fuck, what did we do kind of moments. You get your climax gets to be all the insane stuff, all of the weaponry or the gadgets or the the blood-soaked shirt and the looking crazy, but you actually provide some answers in the end.
Mm-hmm.
The very ending after the climax is the part where, by showing it out of order, you get that end voiceover about fantasy and Lord Humongous, and it really informs how this happened. It's a really great note to go, if you weren't making that connection yourself or you weren't sure that's what was intended, we are saying, directly to you, this is time to embrace fantasy world.
Yeah.
It's giving you real insight into nut jobs, into going, oh, well, why don't you just, hey, your life's shitty. Why don't you just be the fantasy character now? Hey, it's not so bad, man. You're
Right.
just the fantasy character now. It's just the start of your new life.
Yeah.
As a carnal warlord of the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So when, you walk by someone who is blowing their brains out, completely unflinching, you don't have to read into what the movie's saying. You know exactly where they were going with that.
Right. So now we have a filmmaker we've seen before, filmmaker we've covered before, and a filmmaker we're still terrified of.
Yeah, still not ready. When Crash happens, not ready.
I know. That was a moment I had never seen this.
Oh, really?
And
Oh, wow.
I thought I got Cronenberg because I've seen all the body horror.
See, I told you there was a weird sex thing we were avoiding because it's too weird and I don't know how to talk about it.
And I've seen all three of the ones that get all the awards, the newer ones.
Sure.
The
We totally got a handle on those. Those are great. Yeah, right.
And
they're great too.
And this was a complete, it's so Cronenberg. It's almost too Cronenberg. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, because you have no handle on it.
Right.
That's what makes
and
it.
You get this thing that I just realized watching the credits where it says, based on a novel or
right.
from the story by, and then it says immediately following, it will say hypothetically, based on the novel The Little Engine That Could by so-and-so.
Right.
And then it will say immediately following, written by David Cronenberg.
Sure.
And that's the moment where you go, oh, so, okay.
Yeah.
When it says written by David Cronenberg, that's when you know that it's not based on that novel.
Right.
That somebody somewhere along the line went, this is kind of like The Little Engine That Could.
You think?
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
just
I don't
totally
actually
backwards.
think that, but
Sure.
I think that David Cronenberg does these twists, and I mean twists because
Sure.
they're twisted.
Yeah.
These twists on novelizations that he writes them in a way that he knows he can tackle in the most subversive
Sure.
and fucked up ways that because he prances in that territory. That's
Sure.
where he lives, and he gets all these fucking actors that you never expect to do a decent job. With few exceptions. I mean, Peter Weller. Love Peter Weller. We've talked about all.
Well, we think these guys can do a decent job because they've been in the Cronenberg movies.
That's exactly what it is.
Peter
It's
Weller
kind
is
of
RoboCop.
Yeah.
And had I not seen any of his other stuff, I would go, oh yeah, RoboCop.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
he was
whatever.
also Buckaroo Banzai.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean.
No, I know. That's exactly what you mean.
But then, you know, Mortensen too didn't care about him till I started seeing him in the Cronenberg
Hidalgo.
stuff. And then I suddenly thought, oh, best actor ever. You
Yep.
know, that's the kind of thing that Jeff Goldblum, I didn't consider anything more than, oh, a person I enjoy.
Uh-huh.
And then The Fly happened.
Right.
And it was, wow, Jeff Goldblum can do things.
Yeah, or let's say, I don't know, one of the non-Walken actors from The Prophecy.
Sure. Sure.
Not
right.
Christopher Walken, not Virginia Madsen.
Sure.
Can that guy act?
Yeah, right, right. So I wanted to do Crash after Bellflower because Bellflower does such a good job of going, hey, you probably brought all of these things together in your head and really understood what we were doing, and I'm going to solidify that, pat you on the back, and go, yes, this is what we were doing here. Now everybody gets it, and we're just, filmmakers do a phenomenal job, audience does a phenomenal job.
Go team.
And then Crash happens.
Yeah.
And usually I watch Crash, and I go, man, I understand that even less than last time that shit happened. And so I think we can tackle it this time, and I'm just littered with questions.
Yeah.
The place I want to start is James Spader.
James Spader.
Because we've seen him in Secretary,
Very
where
sexy
other
in Secretary.
weird sex stuff happened. And
Yeah.
I mean,
He
James
was also in
Spader,
shorts.
he was Mr. Black, right? Yeah, the other place he's really well known for, though, is Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Right.
So, I mean, he's had a lot of these roles where he does
always-
brooding, sexy art films.
Even his
That's
character in
his
The
thing.
Office is really sexually charged in a fucked up way.
Sure, right.
Yeah, James Spader has this weird thing with sex where it's not just this film, but it's especially in this film, where James Spader in sex is really intense,
Sure.
primal, visceral. It's like a need, an urge.
Sure.
And you question whether he enjoys it at all.
Sure.
You don't know whether he's fucking because his cock is hungry
Sure.
or because he wants to have an orgasm.
Yeah, I've known people, too, who make really sexual-fueled art, and they cannot provide any insight for me about it. It's one of those things, I think it's just that it's what it is because it's so visceral.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's sex.
Yeah.
How more visceral do you get than... You know, it's maybe it's all about a mood and nothing about an explanation.
Yeah.
I want a pretentious, artsy metaphor, but it's just weird, dark sex.
Sure.
You look at James Spader's career and he's attracted to those roles. You see something like Crash, and I mean, this is, I also think about James Spader because when I think about Cronenberg stuff, I think he has the same actor in all his movies, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Peter Weller in a Cronenberg movie is the same guy in my head as James Spader. You know, he's the same guy as James Woods.
Uh-huh.
You know, this
Totally.
is the same actor who's in Videodrome. And you see these movies and they're very different people, but I see this same kind of tranquil, I'm okay with the fucked up thing that's happening in front of me. And even with the Viggo Mortensen stuff, to the point where I don't think about, oh, this actor stands out as my ally in this movie. Instead, he's just a part of the Cronenberg landscape of these weird projects he's doing. And I think that's why, you know, in my head I have trouble. If you ask me which one is James Woods in, I go, oh, he's in all of them.
Yeah.
He's in the, I don't know,
James
he's in
Woods,
Naked Lunch, right?
The Cronenberg movie? Yeah, he's in the Cronenberg
Right.
movie.
The one that has James Spader in it is the one where History of Violence.
Yeah.
Is James
right?
Spader in the TV? He's in The Brood.
Yeah.
I don't know which
right?
one. You know, I have this problem with him. And
I think the only definitive one is Jeff Goldblum is the Fly. That's,
Right.
That's what you get.
right, but the performance you're getting out of Jeff Goldblum is kind of similar
No,
to
you're
the
right.
other ones.
You're right.
You know, so when Cronenberg writes these parts, he gets these actors to play him, and they do this perfect job of, I mean, you really know you're watching a role that Cronenberg intended, more so than just a role that, well, this is how James Spader performs in this role. Although you then see James Spader in Secretary, and you also go, weird kind of docile sexuality. So at one point that kind of informs it, because I can go, okay, James Spader from Secretary, I kind of got Secretary, I'm getting this.
Sure.
But at the same time, it also goes, this is not going to help you at all.
Right.
This person is not going to be your ally in this thing. And I mean, I say that because, all right, we're looking at this movie Crash. This is about this kind of, I guess, underground world of car crash sexuality. Right? That's a weird place to be in. And all the characters exist in that world. So in my head, I'm going crazy sci-fi world. That's what David Cronenberg does. I'm looking for an ally. That's why I keep using the word ally.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the kind of straight man outsider who's first being introduced to this. James Spader's character is that guy.
Right.
But he's so okay with it, he doesn't help me at all.
Right. Well,
you
and
know
that's,
what I mean?
yeah.
He's not the one who's going to explain this to you.
Sure.
He's not the guy going, wow, everyone, this is the same thing we talked about in Naked Lunch.
Yeah.
All this weird shit's happening.
Yeah.
And the outsider character isn't going, wow, you guys, hold on. This is so weird. I need to stop and talk about it. He's just going, oh,
further down the rabbit hole.
Sexy car crash. This is what I've been doing my whole life. I didn't know there was a community for this.
Right. And that's the terrifying moment where you realize David Cronenberg is moving out of sci-fi and into the real world, and you need to run away.
Yeah. Yeah, as if his warped, when it was sci-fi territory, it was okay. Because I don't exist in the world of Videodrome. That's fine. The same kind of weird underground thing, too, in Videodrome. A lot of those same motifs. But when it's happening here, I don't have to think, oh no, long live the new flesh. What if that actually happened?
Right.
Wouldn't that be crazy? This might actually exist somewhere.
Sure.
And it's freaking me out.
Well, I mean, it even makes plays on historical reality. They talk about James Dean.
Sure.
And that's the moment where, I mean,
they try and make it more real.
Yeah. They bring you, instead of doing the fly thing, instead of doing, I mean, Naked Lunch does it exceptionally. Instead of trying really hard to bring you into their world, they're doing, it's like mental 3D, right?
Sure.
It's coming into your world, and you're terrified because by the end of the film you go, oh my god, this is just in California. This isn't in some other universe on some other planet. This is 1,000 miles from where I live, or further or closer. I don't know where people are living these days. I just assume everyone lives in Chicago.
Definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Our listenership proves it. It's a place where you have, I mean, on the opposite end of things, you have the crazy super immersed character like Elias Koteas' character.
Right. Who we've seen in The Prophecy and The Fourth Kind and At Pupil.
Gattaca as well. And Gattaca as well. I mean, it's a character, you're kind of afraid of him because he's so immersed, and it's a little scary how crazy he is. He's, he would be playing our Michael Ironside doppelganger in this movie as the other ones.
Well, and he's the type of person in this film where he's got an explanation that he gives for why he does what he does to see if people are ready for the real explanation.
Sure.
I mean, he is that involved.
Yep.
He knows how fucked up it is.
It's 10 layers deep in this.
It's absolutely a level of insanity. It's a level of insanity that brings you back to being functional.
Sure, because you need a moment to stop and go, well, the film kind of knows that I'm not okay with this.
Right.
If none of the characters in the film know, at least the film, James is the fresh perspective, but we can't identify with him. But he's still a good vantage point for our world. He's a good guide. So I feel like while the world is completely unknown and off-putting, this is at least a person showing us around that place, but definitely not someone we could see ourselves as.
Right.
Or maybe we could.
Yeah.
I mean, so here's the thing. I'm making this sound like all the Cronenberg movies are the same, and they all have the Michael Ironside guy, and they all have the weird sexy thing, or I guess some weird thing that might stand in where the sexuality does. And they don't. They're not the same movie. But I'm doing the movie a disservice because as we're talking about it, I'm trying to just desperately cling onto the elements that I kind of get.
Which are that you've seen other David Cronenberg movies.
Can we do something really uncomfortable for the show?
Huh.
Let's just go the other direction.
Okay.
Let's, I want to ask you a bunch of questions about this movie.
Great.
And my answer for every question is I have no idea.
All right.
So we'll just talk about the weird things in the movie. First fucking thing I want to know, and this may be the hardest question, but one I think is well-deserved. This is a movie about people who are turned on by car crashes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sexuality in the movie. There's a lot of fucking. There's a lot of nudity.
It starts with
There's,
nudity and fucking
a woman's
and
rubbing her
sexuality.
boob on an airplane.
Yeah.
I mean, is this hot? I don't know if this is hot.
You know, I think, and I know it's almost to the point on Double Feature where it feels like an easy answer, but I'm gonna go back to A Dirty Shame.
Okay.
I'm
The
going
antithesis of David Cronenberg.
I'm going to invoke A Dirty Shame, and I'm going to say people are into everything, and it's okay.
And
as
somebody's
long-
into airplane boob rubbing.
People are into everything. Someone's tried it. That's, you know,
Sure.
people are into
Okay.
everything. Someone's tried it, and it's fine.
Sure.
As long as it's safe, consensual, and nobody's getting hurt.
I guess I agree with all of those
Yeah.
things. See, this is the weird thing I'm having, and maybe this is going back to talking about that visceral nature. I'm seeing a woman rub her boob on this airplane, and I think it's kind of turning me on, but I don't know if I'm turned on. That's how much this movie's fucking with me.
I
Is
agree.
I'm watching it, and I can't really, as if I can make a decision. You know, you
Sure.
see things and they turn you on or they don't.
Right.
But I'm watching Crash, and I can't tell if I'm aroused or not.
It's absolutely amazing that an
Isn't
entire film can go from start to finish, and you never know if you're turned on.
Okay, so this is at least an emotion you can identify with here.
Well,
I
no,
don't know if I was
can't-
having a unique
I
experience
don't want to
or
say, I don't want to say it's an emotion I can identify with.
not. Okay, sure.
Because it's the first time I think it's ever really happened to me.
Yeah,
where a
weird.
film is it's so sexually charged
Sure.
from the get-go.
But you don't know if it's sexy or not.
Right. You know
Yeah.
that it's sex. And I think that is really the only definitive thing I can say is that Crash is sex, though maybe not sexy.
I mean, it's dark and brooding. That's certainly one of the things about the sexuality.
Yeah.
Is it's a lot fucking darker than. It's not the fun time John
Yeah.
Waters. So,
Yeah.
so it's certainly not fun time
Right.
sexuality. We can definitely say that about it. But I'm wondering how, the reason I even bring up this question is I want to know how the audience is supposed to interpret the
Sure.
sexuality. When you see this, I mean, let's contrast this to, we watched Bound for the show. Bound is a movie I watch, and it also borders on pornography in the same way this does.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way possible, in the most artistically redeeming way possible. But I watch Bound, and I go, this is hot. It's fine. That's just a fine thing that happens in the first half of Bound. And I get why the movie's doing it, but also it's totally fine if the audience watches it and they think it's hot. That is part of the intention there.
Sure.
You're supposed to believe the characters think it's hot. I mean, we defended that on the show. I watch Crash, and it's still dark. It's still moody in a lot of the ways that Bound was kind of dark and moody, and it's still just as I keep going back to the word pornographic because it has naked people doing it. That's fine, but it was way more fun there. Why is it so different here?
I think because the
That one was
characters-
easy for me.
Yeah, I think it's because the characters in the story are so deeply psychologically invested in what's going on.
Sure.
There's this kind of thing that we always cover on Double Feature with the sex, which is that sex is sex, and it's not the same. I mean, fucking is fucking, and it doesn't necessarily have to be more than that.
Sure.
It can be fun, it can be enjoyable, it can mean a lot, or it can mean nothing.
Sure.
And I think
There isn't necessarily a magic associated
Right,
with it, or
but I-
that needs to be attached to
yeah,
it.
exactly. And I think in Crash, there's so much self-discovery that goes along
Sure.
with every bit of intercourse.
You're right. It's
Anytime
self-discovery.
anybody's fucking anyone, they're learning ways about themselves.
Sure.
And really becoming immersed, not only like in that person, but it's like they're fucking themselves.
Sure, right.
They're gaining so much more of a psychological awareness
Sure.
every time they fuck anybody, and everybody fucks everybody.
Sure, right.
I mean, if you look at it like gaining knowledge per person you fuck,
right.
these are the four
They're
smartest
racking
people.
up experience.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, they go for it. They always go for it. Maybe it's their lack of hesitation.
Sure.
That's part of what separates me from that world and makes it, I don't want to call it off-putting, but I mean, I think that's probably intention. He has a car crash with the girl he ends up meeting through
Right.
the crash. In a lot of ways, that's weirder than the science fiction kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He looks over at the other girl after this car crash, bodies flying around or whatever, and she rips open her shirt and presumably starts masturbating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this kind of thing where it doesn't really get much weirder than that. When you crash a fucking car, you're thinking about who's to blame, damage to the vehicle, safety, destruction, insurance, police, ambulance. None of these are concerns these characters have. Does not address one of these fucking things They don't, get out of the car and talk about how hurt they are. How hurt they are only ever comes into play when you think about kind of that body horror thing.
Yeah.
When you look at their scars as weird human oddities and then poke them and then rub your hands on them and touch them and then start masturbating.
Yeah.
The only time you even think about damage.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, every bit of, the crashes is sexuality. No time to consider what normal people consider, only time to think about sex stuff. And I think that's enough to go, Cronenberg probably knows most of the audience isn't into this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're at the point in figuring out Cronenberg where it would not surprise me if this was a big surprise to him that the audience wasn't all into this and thought it was hot. I could go either way on this.
Yeah, and one thing I can definitely say, and I'm not trying to say we're particularly unique individuals, but if we're not into it, most people are not into it.
Well, at the very least...
Or at least if we can't see the appeal. Sure. Let's put it that way.
We were just talking about exploitation last show.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of get whether it's true or not, and in a lot of cases not true, I get the Weinstein brother kind of sitting in the chair, smoking a cigar, going, what puts asses into seats? Sure. You know what I mean? I understand that concept. And I feel like most people see this, and this isn't a putting asses into seats kind of thing. It's an oddity kind of thing. Yeah. I just don't know. Does Cronenberg know that? He knows that, right?
I think David Cronenberg
Does he not care?
I think he lives in this world of self-exploration. I think every time he makes art, especially something like Crash, he's trying to do something original in a sense that you have never thought about that before. Well, and that it begs...
just really quick to clarify, I'm not saying that, hey, Cronenberg should wake up and realize if there was a machine gun for a leg, he'd sell more tickets.
No, I just
want to know if, he makes the movie he makes, which is exactly the movie he should make. And this is not an exploitation movie that appeals to whatever. That's not the goal here. Yeah. And I get that. My question is more, when he makes this movie, does he even stop to go, oh yeah, people think this is fucking weird? Or does he just make a movie that he goes home and masturbates to? I just don't know the answer to that.
I think that a lot of it has to be this kind of person. I think he's making films that are probing and thought-provoking to him. Right. Which are 10 times removed to what's probing and thought-provoking to an average person.
Okay, I see what you mean.
He's watching the film and going, yes, this does deal with a lot of issues in society.
Sure.
And we're watching the film going, oh my fucking Christ.
Yeah, well,
what is this guy thinking?
The thing that makes his movie so amazing and makes him such a filmmaker I'm so fucking interested in is his ability to stay in a world and to commit to it and never to stop to go, oh, normal person's perspective, aren't they going to think this is weird? Yeah. You know what I mean? Even when we think about other things like The Fly, I mean, that's the one that I think is one of the most, oh my God, someone has turned into a fly. But even then, not that much. Right. And so the fact that he doesn't stop to give outsider perspective, he just dives into that world because
he's comfortable.
Yeah.
He's comfortable with his vision and he's comfortable with his mind. Sure. And that's something that I think a lot of filmmakers end up grappling with. Right. Is going, how do I put my mind and my vision into the eyes of people who will understand it? Sure. How do I create a back door into my brain? Right. And David Cronenberg goes, my brain doesn't have a back door. You have to come in the front door. And in order to get to the front door, you have to walk through the front yard. And the front yard is a bunch of dildos. Sure.
Well, if I could use your metaphor even more here, there's no moat with a bridge over it here. Yeah. There is no, welcome in. I realize that this is different from the outside world. Why don't you come in and explore?
He lives 2 houses down from you, except instead of grass. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's exactly it. Like, not even aware. They go to the car dealership. That's a point where maybe the guy at the dealership is nowhere near the world of sexuality. He just sells cars, but he even seems a little turned on by it.
Sure. Well, it's a woman.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's kind of the thing there is that.
But that's the closest
she comes in and
get,
she's
to saying, oh yeah, they're to an acknowledgement of the outside world. Right. That's what I'm saying. You don't have, and it's amazing for that. I'm not saying it's missing something. I'm saying that's the beauty.
And
here.
I think that it's a double-edged sword when he does that, because he brings it in, and here comes the moment where the outside world can look in and she's sexually appealing at that moment.
Sure.
Any guy would have had the same reaction. I see her in that moment
Sure.
go, oh, she's being really hot right now.
Sure.
And so instead of you seeing the real world creep in, you see the Crash world creep out.
Right.
You see
right.
where it can gel with normal society.
Yeah.
You see, the Venn diagram of normalcy and crazy Crash people are that car dealer.
Right.
He's turned on by this woman
Sure.
in a car. I mean, and that's the moment where you go, blondes and muscle cars.
Right.
Okay, it
Right.
starts there.
Right.
That is the crossover
That's
point.
the slippery slope
Yeah.
to this underground society. Yeah, I mean, I think that scene is the closest thing to him showing his hand.
Yeah.
As to whether or not he's almost in a piece of performance himself as a director, as just going outside world. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
And I love that because this isn't just places other people don't go in their movie. This is, I mean, he goes places you didn't even know you could go because he's so willing to push it this far and to stay in this world. And it's an amazing thing to do because when you address something like this in a movie, if you have a character that plays it a little straight, then you're wasting time bridging with the audience, where instead you have this kind of closed system that can then, it's a movie, it's documented and printed, and you can look in on it anytime you want. So if me and you want to answer these questions, we just watch Crash 1,000 times.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then we figure out, we kind of get these answers rather than having a character hold our hand through it and help us explore the world.
Yeah.
He just goes, here's the world. You can look at the world whenever you want. You can come into the world. You can play around in the world. I'm never going to tell you anything about it. You're just invited here, and maybe you'll figure it out, or maybe you'll just watch this movie so many times that the car wash scene will turn you on. I think that would be my gateway into this. And then before you know it, you'll be one of the Crash people, and never have realized that transition even fucking happened. David Cronenberg, so fucking good. We have a website, I guess. I don't care. What are we doing next time? People know the thing, right? Go to the website, find the other David Cronenberg movies.
Email more Cronenberg. Next
time.
So
easy. Bad Cat. I get Bad Cat. That's on the website. Next
also,
time on the show.
Also, coincidentally, directed by David Cronenberg.
Doublefeatureshow@gmail.com.
All right, so next week we're gonna get what? Rock and roll. We're gonna get fucking heavy metal on
Let's
this
get
shit.
more accessible.
All
Back
right,
towards the accessibility.
All right, sounds good. Little accessible, little camp, little cult. We're gonna do Rock and Roll High School, the Ramones movie.
Great.
And then this is Spinal Tap.
Let's just go ahead and watch those right now.
All right, watch more fucking film.
Bye.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
Joining me on this goddamn double feature is Michael Kester. My name is
Lord
Eric Ingram.
Humongous.
And yeah, you want to be humongous for this show?
You can be Lord Humongous.
Oh, that's weird. And I'm not going to call myself Lord Humongous. It just
But you're
sounds
fucking
like
Lord
I'm
Humongous, man.
inviting. All right, so the movies we're doing today. What are the movies?
Today we're doing Bellflower and Crash.
There we are. Bellflower and Crash. Those were the movies. Yes, the David Cronenberg Crash.
And the Evan Gladell Bellflower.
There you have it. We're gonna
And it's, I mean, man, one of my favorite films, I think, in the entire world.
Awesome.
And you start there. So you start with this independent film company giving this first off director a chance. This writer, producer, director, star. One of our favorite types of people.
Yeah.
And it's Evan Gladell who plays Woodrow in Bellflower.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of making the film, he goes ahead and builds a camera.
Sure.
Builds a fucking camera for the film. And he put the car together. They actually made that car themselves.
Yeah.
You can actually buy one. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I did not know that.
If you give them $500,000, they will build you a Mother Medusa car.
Really?
And
for
they
a
will
mere
get
$500,000.
Yeah, and they will get all the permits, and they will make it street valid. It will be able to shoot fire, and they will call him Adam Yauch.
Sure.
So MCA,
So where else will people know him from?
The Beastie Boys from
All
Futurama is where people will know him from.
Sure.
But he was MCA in the Beastie Boys, and he had this side project with all of his massive amounts of well-deserved cash from being an innovative musician and musical artist.
No sarcasm there, by the way,
none.
right? Okay, good. Totally on board with you.
And
I just want to make sure we are clear for the audience.
Absolutely one of the
Hooray,
most
capitalism.
groundbreaking.
Did a good job, groundbreaking, got lots of money.
Sure.
And then used it on art.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So Oscilloscope
have done
Films
better.
it's this production company that funds independent films that, are interesting or innovative.
Sure.
And
as an alternative to just buying a giant gold pyramid, perhaps?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so film company.
Right. And Bellflower was one of the films that I think it was one of the last films Oscilloscope ever put out.
Sure.
It came out in 2011.
Chapters. Wait, let's do this correctly this
Okay.
time. Use chapters to skip the rest of this boring segment. There, you like that? I'm on top of this. This is going to be a good show. I can tell already. You can use the chapters. They're embedded in the show. The reason you might want to use the chapters if you haven't skipped yet, this is going to be like a secret segment that no one hears because everyone went, ooh, chapters, skip.
Right.
You can skip over the spoilers using the chapters.
And Bellflower, I know we always kind of do this thing where we talk about the level of spoilerage that you can actually do.
Yeah, that's my fault.
And I think that's
Sorry about
stupid.
that.
No,
Yeah,
I don't think you're stupid.
No, I'm
think,
stupid as well, but coincidentally, not
But
really.
what I do want to say is Bellflower has one of my favorite spoilers.
Oh, good. Okay.
Of any film ever. And so we're definitely going to talk about that.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do Bellflower first. And just to say fuck you to all those people who skipped the spoiler warning using the chapters feature.
Spoil it right away.
Yeah, what's the spoiler from Bellflower? Tell me right now.
My favorite spoiler from Bellflower is when he fucking wakes up after that massive slaughter fest. And he kind of just goes, okay, so don't burn the box.
There you have it. All right, so where should we actually start with Bellflower?
I think with Bellflower, you got to start before they make the film.
Oscilloscope? Is
I
that
think
what
you
you want to
start
talk
with
about?
Oscilloscope
Of course
Productions.
You do. Of course you do. So tell me about this.
So Oscilloscope Productions, you've seen the logo if you've ever watched a film.
If you've watched this film,
Sure.
maybe.
And it's an independent film production studio. They do a lot of stuff at Cannes and Sundance. That's the other one. Those are the two that people give a shit about, right?
Yes. Man, this is going to be like the indie circuit show.
Oh,
We're going
yeah.
to be talking about that a lot.
And it was run by Adam. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yacht or Yacht.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
For MCA. I've always called him MCA,
That's
and then
fine.
he died. And then when you say MCA, people, you have to